Chapter 657, 3 Powerful Sword Comprehensions. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. The God's mark could hide. Even saints could not discover it. How powerful was this grey-haired old Taoist's cultivation? How could he see Zhang Yuochen's God's mark and even know that he had experienced 4 chords of the gods? If he could see his God's mark, surely he also saw Zhang Yuochen's true identity. Zhang Yuochen was extremely nervous, yet his face still looked calm and collected. The grey-haired old Taoist turned around and waved his hand. Lin Yue, you've already earned 3 sword comprehensions. It doesn't matter whether they were from our 3 patriarchs or not, you have to make good use of them. Leave now. Prepare for the upcoming Grand Sword Contest. If you have time, visit the ancient God's Mountain. You may find it beneficial. When he heard the grey-haired old Taoist address him as Lin Yue, Zhang Yuochen finally relaxed. He realized the old man would not make things difficult for him. Even so, why had he not exposed him on the spot? Why did the grey-haired old Taoist trust him so much? How could he be sure Zhang Yuochen was not an undercover member of the black market or demonic sect? Zhang Yuochen was baffled. He had conflicting emotions as he followed a narrow, shady path towards Ixia Sacred Mountain and left the Supreme Pure Palace. He said to himself, the Yin and Yang sect is indeed full of undiscovered talents. My altered appearance may deceive half-saints and saints, but not old superiors of incredible cultivation. I must continue practicing the change of 36 forms until I reach big success in the first change. Only then can I disguise myself flawlessly. When Zhang Yuochen returned to Ixia Sacred Mountain, he found Xunhualiu waiting for him at his courtyard, seemingly unbothered by his injuries. An obese young man was beside him. His rotund belly nearly burst his Taoist robe. Zhang Yuochen looked at the man. He guessed that he was the third of the 3 romantic swordsmen, Fat Mu Jiji. Xunhualiu had mentioned him before. Xunhualiu looked extremely serious. Boss Lin, I hear that you signed up for the sword contest of the 8th change in the Fish Dragon realm. Is it true? The 3 romantic swordsmen had once vowed that whoever had the highest cultivation would be called boss. Mujiji was the former boss since he was the first to break into the Fish Dragon realm. Things had changed now. Lin Yue had beaten a saint disciple of the 3rd change in the Fish Dragon realm. He had surpassed Mujiji, who was of the 1st change in the Fish Dragon realm. He was now their true boss. Zhang Yuochen nodded and answered, yes. Xunhualiu and Mujiji looked at each other wryly. Although they knew Lin Yue was now very powerful, they did not think he could beat monks of the 8th change in the Fish Dragon realm. Lin Yue was now the boss, however, so they could not say much. Zhang Yuochen led them into a study. He sat down and glanced at Xunhualiu. I made a bet with Gai Hao. If you lose to Pang Long in the Grand Sword Contest, I'll have to give him a holy sword. PFFF. Xunhualiu had just sat down and was taking a sip of tea. He spat out the tea in his mouth in shock, spraying Fat Mu's face across him. Ahem. Boss Lin Yue, Master Lin Yue, would you stop joking? How can I beat Pang Long? You'll lose too much, betting a holy sword. If you have too many treasures, give your holy sword to junior sister Hanku. Maybe you can win her heart that way. Xunhualiu pulled a long face. Mujiji also felt that Lin Yue was crazy. Boss Lin, although Xunhualiu and Pang Long are both of the 1st change in the Fish Dragon realm, there's a vast gap between their cultivations. Gai Hao will win your holy sword easily. Zhang Yuochen shook his head and said, I was confident when I made the bet. There's 1 more month before the sword contest. If Xunhualiu's cultivation breaks into the 2nd change in the Fish Dragon realm, he can easily beat Pang Long. It's not possible for a monk to break into the 2nd change in the Fish Dragon realm within a month. Mujiji immediately shook his head. Zhang Yuochen hooked his finger and knocked the tabletop. I won't force a complete stranger to do it, but it's our rare affinity to know one another. Now I am giving you 2 a chance. How you choose is completely up to you. Xunhualiu and Mujiji felt Boss Lin meant something significant with these words. To know each other is a rare affinity, that was as good as saying nothing. Wasn't it? After reflecting for 15 minutes, Xunhualiu came to a decision first. I'll say it again. If you can make me reach the second change in the fish dragon realm before the contest, you can do whatever you want with me. I'll risk my life to help you win the bet. Mujiji smiled and said, if you put it that way, count me in. Zhang Yuochen said, very well, since you two have made up your minds, I will assist you all the way. The two of you have reached the fish dragon realm while you are still very young. This means you have great potential. In fact, your potential exceeds those of many so-called geniuses. Once you realize 3 points, it won't be hard to beat Pang Long. Xunhua Liu and Mujiji asked together, what 3 points? First, improve your physical quality. You two should at least cultivate a treasured body. Second, switch to a different exercise. Practice an exercise of at least the king's stage. Third, practice your willpower. You cannot succumb to women anymore. I've already prepared a 5-element spirit treasure, the black glazed spinel. Once you have refined it, it's as good as having practiced for 10 years. You will cultivate a treasured body of water spirit as well. I have already prepared some king's stage exercises as well. All you need to do is switch to a different exercise. I have also found you a teacher to monitor your training and help you practice your willpower. Blackie, I entrust them to you. Blackie. Xunhua Liu and Mujiji looked out the door, eager to know who Boss Lin had invited. A lazy voice rang out from the hall. Make them reach the second change in the fish dragon realm within a month. That's too easy. No challenge for me at all. The two of them focused their eyes on something lying on a table nearby. Their eyes widened in surprise when they realized that it was a fat black cat that had spoken. How powerful could a cat possibly be? Blackie said no more. He stood on his toes and dashed across, turning into a black streak of light. With lightning speed, he hit both Xunhua Liu and Mujiji. Both screamed hideously and crashed into the wall. They tumbled to the courtyard outside. I have already sealed your meridians. From now on, each of you will carry a 50-ton weight. Now run around Zixia Sacred Mountain 20 times. Blackie had rushed out and was now standing on the top of the steps, growling loudly. How dare this fat cat sneak attack me? Ah! Exclamation mark. Xunhua Liu had wanted to resist, but Blackie's paw knocked him into the air. He spun 720 degrees before landing with a thud. Outside, the noise of merciless thrashing was heard. At first, Xunhua Liu and Mujiji screamed painfully, then, they begged for mercy. Zhang Yuochen was confident of Blackie's abilities. He left the black glazed spinel and 2 exercise manuals behind and then took out the yin-yang wooden graph and entered the scroll world. Where did the 3 sword comprehensions come from? He sat with his feet tucked beneath his legs under the sacred prime tree. Zhang Yuochen placed both hands on his knees and began drawing spiritual power back to himself. He guided it down to the Chi Sea and started probing the 3 sword comprehensions. The 3 sword comprehensions had turned into 3 turbulent streams of Chi. They shuttled around the Chi Sea, circling his heart of the sword. Each stream of Chi was 20 kilometers long and 50 meters wide, resembling a great river. How strong and powerful the sword comprehensions are. Zhang Yuochen carefully controlled his heart of the sword, fashioning it into a small man. He tried gathering the 3 powerful Chi into it. Zhang Yuochen's heart of the sword was weak compared to the 3 sword comprehensions. It was shattered by a sword Chi and blown away. Although his heart of the sword was hit by one of the sword comprehensions, Zhang Yuochen realized it had suffered just a little injury. Inspiration suddenly flashed across his mind. The perplexing mysteries of the Tao of the Sword suddenly became clear. Zhang Yuochen continued to observe, reaching a very surprising conclusion. When his heart of the sword was hit by a stream of sword comprehension, tiny fissures had appeared. These fissures seemed to be absorbing Chi from the sword comprehensions and repairing the heart of the sword. I see. These 3 sword comprehensions represent 3 teachers. If I can endure hardships and their strikes, I can learn the Tao of the sword from them. The 3 sword comprehensions were not just imparting knowledge to Zhang Yuochen, they were also tempering, strengthening and purifying his heart of the sword. There was only 1 month before the sword contest. Zhang Yuochen was short of time, so he tried multitasking with his powerful spiritual power. Controlling his heart of the sword, he learned the Tao of the sword from the 3 sword comprehensions. At the same time, He ingested some Xuanwu sacred blood. He refined its spiritual blood and holy qi and raised his cultivation. Time flew. 2 months quickly passed in the scroll world. Zhang Yuochen had refined 1 drop of Xuanwu sacred blood. He had raised his cultivation to the mid-stage of the 4th change in the fish dragon realm. He was now in the 5th realm of Sword 1. Another 2 months passed. Zhang Yuochen had refined his 2nd drop of Xuanwu sacred blood. His cultivation once again improved. He had now reached the advanced stage of the 4th change in the fish dragon realm and the 6th realm of Sword 1. Another 2 months passed. Zhang Yuochen had refined his 3rd drop of Xuanwu sacred blood. He was now at the peak of the 4th change in the fish dragon realm and the 7th realm of Sword 1.